afternoon and welcome. This is Business Incorporated coming to you live from Lagos. I'm Chimeze Obi Iwago. Coming up, South Africa's headline inflation quickens to 6.3% year-on-year in June from 6.1% in May. And more analysis as IMF revises growth projections in Sub-Saharan Africa. Plus, UK jobless rate falls to new 11-year low. Now we'll begin with some automobile stories there, with 3 U.S. states filing civil lawsuits against Volkswagen, claiming the company's senior executives covered up evidence in emission cheating scandal. New York, Massachusetts, and Maryland filed separate, nearly identical lawsuits in state courts on accusing Volkswagen, the world's #2 automaker, of violating their environmental law.
We're here today because we are announcing that today we are filing a major complaint against Volkswagen and its affiliates, Audi and Porsche, for their decades-long vehicle emissions fraud and their alleged cover-up of that fraud. Attorney General Brian Frosh of Maryland is also filing a case today. He couldn't be here for this announcement, but he is filing a similar suit. The idea of the, as set forth in great detail in our complaint, the idea that this level of fraud could take place and involve so many people at such high levels of these major international corporations for so long is appalling. Volkswagen had gone to great lengths to outfit these diesel vehicles with hidden defeat devices. These devices made it appear during emissions testing that the cars were putting out legal amounts of soot and other harmful emissions. But in reality, when those cars were driven on a regular road, they were spewing emissions that were up to 40 times higher than the legal limit.
In the meantime, EU antitrust regulators have handed down a record €2.93 billion fine on German car maker Daimler, Parker, Volvo, Renault and Iveco for taking part in a 14-year cartel related to emissions-reducing technology. The European Commission said the companies fixed prices and coordinated on the timing of introducing new emission technologies in 1997 and on passing on costs of those new technologies.
The Commission has adopted a decision imposing fines of almost €3 billion on leading truck producers. They participated in a cartel concerning medium and heavy trucks. For this, they have received a record fine. The pricing, how to transfer the cost, and when to introduce the new technologies, on all 3 issues they colluded. Delaying introduction of environmentally friendly technology in agreement with competitors is not exactly sort of the mainstream idea of competition. On the contrary.
And European stocks extended gains today as markets digested a slew of earnings. And just before now, the DAX was trading higher at 1.24%, CAC 40 up 0.87%, and the FTSE was up 0.15%. Now let's cross over to Frankfurt Stock Exchange. DWTV Channel's TV financial correspondent, Ori Bats, is waiting to talk to us about these numbers. Good afternoon, Ori. Good to have you on the program. Now let's start with all major stocks indices in the green today as the troubled automaker Volkswagen reports positive €7.5 billion profit at first half. Is VW out of its bumpy highways, even though 3 U.S. states have filed civil lawsuits against the automaker?
Yeah, I don't think the bumpy highways, if you will, are over yet. The profit is unexpectedly high for the first half of the year, despite Dieselgate. That is, the company is still selling millions of cars and making a tidy profit on them, albeit that $7.5 billion operating profit is diminished by an over $2 billion subtraction, which is being squirreled away for future legal costs. You mentioned, and we just reported reported on those cases in the United States by the 3 states, that could run into money. And that could be one of the reasons why this money is going to be needed. And there are other cases similar to that probably coming up. I would be surprised if other U.S. states didn't try to find environmental laws in their states that in some way related to Volkswagen as well and filed suits. In Canada, there's supposed to be a process underway which could cost VW $2 billion in damage claims. Here in Germany, there are damage claims from investors that have been put forth. So the end is nowhere in sight, and so far the reserves that Volkswagen has put away are addressing what's known at this time, but there probably still needs to be a lot more money put away for the future.
Well, I think DW really has a lot to deal with there. Well, it's earnings season, and an increase in terror incidences in Europe has hit the tourism and travel sectors. Now, Eurotunnel says Brexit volatility will impact its earnings. What are investors' short to long-term outlook on these sectors?
Well, on the travel and the tourism sectors, the short term isn't good, and the equities market has paid tribute to that. The shares of the companies have gone down, whether it be travel companies like TUI or Thomas Cook, or airlines like Lufthansa, Air France, KLM. The airline business is a bit different because it doesn't offer just catalog business, but they fly around the world, and terrorism maybe takes less of a toll on overall figures there. Of course, Turkish Airlines will be one that is going to be deeply challenged, not just in the short term, but in the long term. In the long term, travel companies, that's another story, because external shocks, which have always been there, tend to come, they have an effect, and then they, at some point, are phased out. If you remember, that there have been viruses that have kept people from traveling to certain destinations, diseases, or as in the case of Switzerland, the very strong Swiss franc, which has practically priced Switzerland out of the tourism market. But at some way down the road, external shocks usually lose influence over the travel industry.
Now, Ulrich, the first ECB meeting takes place tomorrow, Thursday. That's the first since the June 23 Brexit vote. Yes. And the aftermath, if I'm correct. Now, what's the outlook from Mario Draghi's team in terms of actions and or inactions?
I think that it'll be the main topic of that meeting because people could be expecting action because of the major uncertainty that is underway here in the Eurozone as well, not just in Britain after the Brexit vote, but in the euro area as well. People who know the ECB, they're called ECB watchers, do forecast, though, that there will be no change in monetary policy in terms of interest rates. It's already at zero. Very, very unlikely that they get dropped to a negative rate for the lending facility. But there could be an adjustment in the bond buying. The bond buying, basically printing money in order to get inflation up, i.e. also to get the growth up that way and help support countries that are having difficulties, especially in southern Europe. Right now, the conditions are such that the ECB is being prevented from buying certain bonds because their yields are just too low. It could adjust its standards in order to do more bond buying, which it might find necessary in order to stabilize both the market prices and the economic sentiment in the Eurozone.
Well, Ulrich, we'll keep a tab on that and see what comes out of that meeting tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time, Ulrich Batz, DWTV Channel TV Financial Correspondent. Well, we'll move on. More earnings report here. Goldman Sachs Group has posted a 74% increase in second quarter profit as revenue from fixed income trading and debt underwriting surpassed analyst estimates. Expenses declined less than some projections. Now we take a quick break, and when we return, we talk more about the IMF's outlook for Sub-Saharan Africa. Just stay with us.